Dobry den. Ahoy, everyone. Your teacher, Mr. Harida, has sent me some questions that you all wanted to get answers to from me. So before I even start, I want to say that, that this is just my opinion, and I understand that you want an opinion from someone who's actually here in the United States, so that's fine, but it is an opinion. I believe my opinions are are accurate or close to accurate, but still it's an opinion. So just take that in that vein, and I will answer your questions as best I can. I can also possibly suggest some places for you to read. I'll talk to your teacher about that, the things you can read if you want to get more information. But I do applaud your interest in finding out more information to inform your own opinion. So that's a good sign that you're interested in critical thinking, that you want to collect information from multiple sources, that you're questioning information that you're getting. I see from the questions here, and you want to get some secondary opinions and before you can decide what you really think. So I think that that's really great. So let's start. I'm going to start in a random order. And I'm going to start with the question from Josephine, which is just what's happening in California these days. Well, this is Los Angeles, by the way. This is downtown LA after a big storm. So the mountains, the San Gabriel Mountains in the background have snow on top. It's one of my favorite pictures of Los Angeles. So, on a nice day after it's rained a lot and snowed in the mountains, and then people go out and take pictures all the time because it's a really nice view of LA. So let me just show you that. And what's happening in California? Well, from the news, you can see that things are not great in California in terms of COVID. The numbers have been really high. The hospitalizations have been really high, sorry. And there's not a lot of room in the ICU. Now, according to the governor, those numbers have been improving, but since the numbers have been improving, they're now opening things back up again, which in my opinion is much too soon, and it's going to create more problems. We're going to go backwards with hospitalizations and numbers of infections, but there's a lot of pressure on the governor, on the mayors, etc., the officials to open things. So they open them when they're probably not really ready to be open. But as for me, I stay at home as much as possible, which is almost all the time, except for when I go out for exercise or just to get like a drive around. You can see that we have a lot of mountains around LA, so it's nice to take a drive and go up into the mountains. This is just one of the areas of mountains. We have a lot of mountains here. So we go up into the mountains and there's not that many people around. You can go out, have a walk, or just have a nice drive and look at the desert, the mountains, the ocean, whatever. You can drive around and look at things. So I pretty much stay at home. My job is all remote. I teach online, and I'm not teaching yet. We don't start until another week or so. I'll be back teaching, but that will be at home. So there are things going on here that I don't even know about. I know that, let's see, the second question I'm gonna, I know that somebody asked me if, let me see if I can find it. Yes, Adela asked, are there still protests from Black Lives Matter going on these days? Which I wasn't really going to answer in this order, but I understand that there may be, even here in LA, but I don't really see that. It's not in my neighborhood. And, LA is a very big city. It's over 500 square miles. And I don't know if how to calculate that to kilometers. Alexa, how many square kilometers is 500 square miles?
500 square miles is about 1,290 square kilometers.
So 1,290 square kilometers is the city of Los Angeles. So it's really big. So I don't see everything that's going on or hear it in my neighborhood, but you know, that's just the city of LA. LA County is much, much larger, and all the cities in LA County are really close. I mean, they're not close, but it's a big city, it's a big county, but it feels like all the cities in LA County are part of LA. That's how I experience it. So I don't really know everything that's going on. I do know that some protests have gone away, because one of the things that Black Lives Matter was protesting was the way the district attorney and lawyers and the criminal justice system were treating people of color unfairly. And we just got a new district attorney, so we don't really, and this new district attorney, new DA, has a very different philosophy about how they run the courts and how they press charges and those kinds of things. So those protesters said we don't have to protest anymore, and they stopped. So I'm sure there's something going on. I know it's not in my face. I don't see it, and I don't even see it on the news. I don't really watch TV news, because TV news is not very good, as some of you have noticed as you're asking these questions here. Some TV news is really just to get views and to get people afraid or make people worry or get excited about something, get worked up so you can watch it. And I don't watch that. So let me just go in order here, and then I will get back to the questions about Black Lives Matter as they come up. So the second question that I wanted to answer, oh, by the way, it did snow in LA a few days ago. That's kind of unusual, never happens, but it happened 2 years ago, and it happened again last week. So that's something kind of interesting in California. It's been very cold here, but we need a lot of rain because we're normally in drought conditions. And so we're pretty happy if it rains and snows. So we're hoping for more. So let me go to the next question, which is, are you happy with the new president, or would you like someone else? I am very happy with the new president. I can say that in the primary elections before the general election, when we were trying to figure out who was going to be the Democratic nominee, I was not voting for Biden. I didn't dislike him or anything like that, but I was voting for Kamala Harris. And she's from California. She was our senator. She was our attorney general here. So I felt like I was going to vote for her. But before the primaries happened, she dropped out of the race. Then my second pick was Elizabeth Warren. I really like her. She's very direct. She doesn't mess around, and she has a good sense of what should be done to make the society more equitable and more fair to people who are not rich. And so I really liked her, and that's who I voted for in the primary. But I knew all along that it didn't really matter who won for the Democratic nomination. I was going to vote for that person. So I wasn't really that worked up over whether my candidate won the primary or did not win the primary, because any one of them would be a million times better than Trump. So there was that. And so as far as Biden goes, I'm actually quite glad that he's the president, because he has spent a lot of time working in government. He was a senator for a long time. He was the vice president. He knows a lot of people. He knows how things work. And so I think that in a time of crisis, you really need someone who knows what they're doing, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows how to work, and he's very serious. He's not I don't know if you know that over there. He doesn't tweet. He's not complaining about how he's treated. He's not attacking anyone. He's not calling anyone names. He doesn't respond to petty complaints. He is focused on doing his job. So that for me works very well. He does not engage in all the trivial things that Trump engaged in when he was president. And we need someone who's serious and who knows how to get to work, what needs to be done, and how to do it. And so I'm very, very happy that he's the president. And I'm also happy that Kamala Harris is the vice president. I liked her a lot. As I said, I was going to vote for her, but she wasn't still running by the time I cast my primary vote. So I'm very happy. So 3, let's see here. We did 1, we did 2. The third question I'm going to is, what's your opinion on Black Lives Matter? Another Josephine question. I'm sorry, number 2, the question about the president was from Daniela. Sorry, Daniela. I hope that I answered your question. If not, your teacher know. Tell your teacher and then I will send you another answer. And that goes for anyone. If you have follow-up questions or if you have more, just didn't feel like your question was answered, then tell your teacher and he can send me the questions and I'll send you another answer. So thanks, Daniela. Back to another question from Josephine. Josephine had a lot of questions and she says, what is your opinion on Black Lives Matter? Have you personally experienced racism? So my opinion on Black Lives Matter, I support Black Lives Matter. I think that they have a valid position that they are taking and they have what they're asking for is reasonable and it's well overdue. Do I protest? I do not protest. I do not join protests. It's just not my style. I don't want to protest, especially in a pandemic, but I understand why they take it so seriously and why they're willing to take the risk to demand that Black people stop being murdered in the street. That is not okay. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done with how police operate. And the way they've been operating is not the best. And especially if you're a person of color, not just a Black person, but any person of color, it's not right. And so, yes, I support Black Lives Matter. I do know that when people protest, things can get out of hand. I do not think that it's okay to start burning things or breaking windows or stealing shoes or TVs or whatever happens at some of the protests. I will say that the majority of the people involved in Black Lives Matter, the majority of the protests have been peaceful. It is not okay to burn up cars or break into buildings or set them on fire, what have you. But I do understand that people are equating breaking those windows or burning these things with actual lives of people. And I think that the lives of the people are more important than the things that are broken or destroyed or what have you. So I don't care about the buildings as much as I care about the people. The buildings can be fixed. The buildings can be rebuilt. If you kill someone in the street, they are gone forever. So I think that there's a false equivalence to some kind of violence that's happening with Black Lives Matter and how it kind of negates their cause or, I don't believe that. It like invalidates their mission or their cause. No, it doesn't invalidate it. The lives are more important than the storefronts. And so there's that. There's also a fact that when certain kind of groups protest, like Black Lives Matter, for example, there are people who are not Black Lives Matter people who come out on purpose to make trouble, to set things on fire, to make it seem like those are the Black Lives Matter are bad people. And if you would notice, during Black Lives Matter protests, the police are very aggressive against those protesters. Even when they're just marching, they're not burning anything, they're not looting, they're not doing anything. The police are very aggressive and they attack those protesters freely. They don't treat every protest like that. We'll get to that question later, but it happens. Okay, so there's that. The Black Lives Matter protesters are unarmed. They are not wearing tactical gear. They are not bringing guns. They're not bringing knives. They're just walking and demanding justice. Okay, and they get treated very poorly, sorry, by the police. Like they get beaten up, they get maced, rubber bullets shot at them. They are getting, they're actually, the way they're treated only proves that they are right about what they say about the police. And if you'll notice, just this week, the Black Lives Matter movement was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize by someone in Sweden. I think it was an actual Swedish person. It was a Scandinavian of some sort who nominated them because they are calling for justice. That is what they want, right? So overall, I support them. I don't think violence is supportable in any case, but it's not always the Black Lives Matter people who are sparking that violence. It's being done to make them look bad. So sometimes people who support Black Lives Matter also use the protest as a chance to act wild. So there's that too. But the movement itself, I think, is a valid movement, and I do support it. So let's see. That was the third one. Okay, so the fourth question was, are there still Black Lives Matter protests going on? I would suspect there are. I don't know. I don't see them. I don't watch TV news. So I think that there will be Black Lives Matter protests going on as long as Black people continue to be murdered by police when they're not armed and not doing anything. And if you look at the news, if you just do a search of the news of how many Black people are murdered when they are not doing anything or they're not posing a threat, there's going to be Black Lives Matter until this is not an issue in our society anymore. So there's probably ones going on across the country that I'm not aware of, but I don't see it where I am. Okay, so number 5 is Richard's question. And Richard's asking, Richard says, I would like to know if the situation in America is the same as they are saying in the news, if they exaggerate some things, because it's a normal thing in the news here. Well, Richard, you're very astute because the news everywhere is exaggerated. And that is kind of what I was saying earlier. The news wants people to be afraid or maybe angry, kind of worked up about something, and they present it that way because that's how they sell the news. Unfortunately, people respond well to things that are scary or, so bad that they get angry or, emotional about. If people paid attention to the news without those kinds of stories, they would probably present the news differently. But people are what people are, and the news is what it is. It is always going to heighten conflict and heighten the scary things or the crazy things or the wild things, because that's what captures people's attention. So I would say yes, that the news, I don't know what you're seeing exactly, so I can't really speak specifically to what you are thinking about, but I would say yes, in general, the news gets exaggerated. And But when you say, is the situation in America the same as they are saying in the news, I don't know what that means. So I can say that things are crazy over here, and it's not good. It's not something we feel good about, but it's not 24/7. It's not in your face every day, especially since we're in the pandemic and people like me are staying at home. So inside my house, it's great. When I walk around my neighborhood, it's fine. But I know that things are going on, and they're not a joke. It's very serious. So um, you can pretty much count on the news exaggerating. You can, if you want to get away from news that's exaggerated, you might need to read the news more than you watch the news. For TV, it's going to be exaggerated more. In the print, if you read news sources and if you have multiple news sources that you check, you can pretty much find the balance of how much is close to the truth and how much is exaggerated if you compare a few different types of news sources. I think that the BBC News is, I would say, better than my local news here. And I think, I don't really watch Al Jazeera, but I've heard that Al Jazeera is pretty straight news. You could also check, if you wanted to read about something, check Reuters or AP, because they kind of try to keep it straight also. So if you want to read Reuters, AP, BBC, Al Jazeera, you can get kind of the straighter news, and then you'll see the other people, how they embellish from there. That would be my advice if you really want to see which news is not so exaggerated. Hopefully that answered your question, Richard. If not, tell your teacher and then we'll follow up. So the next question is, how much do political issues influence your daily life? The question's from Carolina. Hi, Carolina. In the day-to-day working of my life, I could say not much, but that's also not true, because the way the political news kind of tells you what's going to be coming down the line in terms of policies that you have to live by, and they're going to filter down to you. So in the immediate sense, you can say not much. I still live where I live. I work where I work. I'm lucky that I was able to keep working. So, the political news might affect someone with a different job a lot more quickly, more directly in their everyday life. For me, I was lucky enough to have a career that's pretty insulated where I am right now. So that's fine. In terms of, the COVID and how COVID is handled is very much affecting. Like, why do I have to stay in my house all the time? And I do have to stay in my house because, one of my friends died from COVID, 2 weeks ago? And because he didn't want to stay in his house, he went out with friends and he gathered and he got sick and he brought it home, and his wife got sick and his daughter got sick. But luckily they didn't get as sick as he did, but he died. And so it's very serious. People don't want to believe that it's serious. People don't want to take it seriously, but it's very serious. So the fact that politicians handle COVID poorly affects how long I have to stay inside most of the time. How I don't go to grocery stores anymore. I order the groceries to be delivered to my house, which is a little bit more expensive. So that affects me in that way. There's just places you just can't go. I can't travel. I love to travel. The teacher loves to travel. He knows how it's affecting him that way too. And we just can't. You just can't travel the way we did before COVID. And so it affects you in those ways. And it affects us, like mentally or psychologically, because we feel even stronger, or we felt that the government was not being run by the smartest people and people who didn't know how to handle things and didn't really care. At least now, President Biden, we feel like someone who's in charge actually cares about what happens to the rest of the people. So that helps us feel a little bit better. Situation hasn't really changed yet, but it feels better. And then, you know, let's see. There's this, let's see, the next question's about media exaggeration again, and the capital. So the next question is from Yirji. How much did the media exaggerate the situation about the elections? Hey, Yirji. The situation about the elections was pretty bad. I don't know how much you can exaggerate that one. I mean, when you have two parties in your government and one party refuses to accept reality because they don't like it, that's pretty bad. That's a bad situation. That's bad for government. That's bad for democracy. It's bad. So the fact that people were contesting the election and they knew, that's the thing is, they knew it wasn't going to work. The laws are written, the Constitution is written, the process is written out, it's codified. They can't change it, but they were hoping that maybe someone would pull a string or do something corrupt that would help them, or they were hoping just to get the press from it so they can get people to vote for them later. It was a bad situation. And so I don't think that was exaggerated by the media, but what the media does is they kind of like tell it over and over and over again, and it makes you feel even worse when it's already pretty bad. It's already bad, and then they just keep, and you feel like bad people are winning because they keep coming up again and again and again in the news, and they keep harping on the story. But again, they're just trying to sell the news. So if we didn't buy the news, they would probably run it differently, but that's another story. So yeah, and then the next question, which was from Mira. Hi, Mira. The question was, how do you perceive the situation that happened in the Capitol? And as I was kind of talking about already, I felt bad. It was like shocking and disgusting, but also it was very stupid. It was horrible that people got killed there or died in the process, that they disrespected the Capitol, the seat of government. We're supposed to be making laws, and you're supposed to be abiding by the law, setting an example, that they disrespected that. And I've been to that building before, and it's very beautiful and it's very historic, and it's like something that you're proud of, that you're trying to run a democracy according to law and being civil and being reasonable. And then to have this happen there, it was very bad. But in a way, it was also stupid, because when I'm watching this, I'm thinking, this isn't going to work. And you see that it didn't work. It doesn't stop anything. The law is the law. The Constitution is the Constitution. The process is the process. And having a hissy fit doesn't change that. And so these people seem to think that if they stopped the counting process, it would change the outcome. And that was never true. So that's not something that I thought, oh my God, they're going to take over the government. I thought, no, but people are going to get hurt. But this is the way Trump thinks. He thinks if you can just make a picture or pose, or if you can have an image or an optic, that it will make things be different. And it doesn't. You had the bad optics. You had all this imagery coming out of the Capitol and these people saying what they thought was going to happen, but it didn't change anything, because that's just not how things work. But Trump has issues, mental, psychological, intelligence-wise. He's not a smart guy, and he doesn't get things. He just thinks everything's going to be the way he says it is. If he just says it, people will believe it, which partially is true. Some people will believe it. Other people never believed him or believed in him. And then he thinks if he just says it and says it and says it and insists on it, he can make it reality. And that's just not the way it works. So yeah, how did I feel about the Capitol? I felt like it was disgusting. It was shameful. It was disrespectful. It was any bad thing you can think about that. It was also stupid because now if you notice, all those people who were in the Capitol are getting arrested by the FBI, by their local FBI, because we have FBI in Washington and we have FBI in every state. I think every state. I don't know about South Dakota, North Dakota, but I would assume every state has there's a lot of FBI chapters around the whole country. And all they're doing is watching the video, collecting the cell phone tower information, and rounding those people up and arresting them. So they've all been kind of operating on this. If we say it, it will be that way. And I hate to put it this way, but that's how white people in America think, that whatever they want is legal. Whatever they say is constitutional. Whatever they want is the right thing, and everybody else who doesn't want what they want is wrong. And that's just not how it works, especially in terms of the law. The law is the law, and yes, legal systems and courts do treat people differently depending on what they look like. But in something like this, you broke the law. You were there. You can't say you didn't. It's recorded. And I think that you know, all this, we are going to change things by rioting. That's just not how it works. And that kind of goes back to the Black Lives Matter protests, because people were saying, well, the Black Lives Matter people protested and, you know, people agreed with them. It's like, yeah, because they had complete different position. They didn't say we're gonna overthrow the government. They didn't go into the Capitol. They didn't bring in weapons and plan to kill someone. They were planning to actually kill people in government so that they could put Trump in charge. And even if they had gotten to those people, Trump still wouldn't be the president. I mean, it was never going to work. And now they just pretty much ruin their own lives, which that's their problem. But yeah, it was terrible. And there must be justice, or we're going to be in a lot of trouble. If they don't pursue this all the way, it's going to be a lot of trouble. So the next question, which is from Pabla. Hi, Pabla. Because what would happen if Donald Trump would be found guilty and the impeachment would be right? What would it mean for Donald Trump besides not being able to be elected again? Now, I can't answer all of this completely, but he's already been impeached. I don't know when you asked the question. Impeachment is impeachment. It is done in the House of Representatives. It is done. He has been impeached for the second time. Now what we're waiting for is the Senate trial, because after impeachment in the House of Representatives comes a trial in the Senate where you can convict the person of the wrongdoing, and then you can set these rules like you can't be elected again, or you can't run for office again, or what have you. Now, the Republicans in America don't like to agree with Democrats, even when it's obvious the Democrats are right. They don't like to hold other Republicans accountable. They usually just do anything a Republican does is fine. Anything a Democrat does is not fine. And they'll make up reasons to be upset about what Democrats do, even if it's something really small. And they make up reasons to accept whatever Republicans do, even if it's really bad. So it is possible that he won't be convicted by the Senate again, because in the first impeachment, the Senate refused to hear witnesses. They refused to take, because it was mostly Republicans, they refused to look at evidence. They just decided from the beginning that they were never going to convict him, that he was perfectly fine, and they didn't want to hear the case, they didn't want to hear the evidence, and they just dismissed, right? Now they're trying to do that again, but they don't have the exact same numbers of Republicans that they had the first time. So, but they have enough to, we need to have 67 people out of the 100 say that Donald Trump is guilty in order for him to be convicted. And 45 Republicans are saying that they will not convict him. They don't believe he should be, that they're trying to make an excuse. They're not saying that he's not guilty. They know he's guilty. It's obvious that he's guilty. What they're saying is, it's too late. He's not president anymore. So we shouldn't be doing this, which is incorrect. And they know it. It's just, they give bad arguments all the time. Whatever they can say to support their own people, they will say it, even if it makes no sense. So that's what they're trying to say, that you can't convict him now because it's too late. He's out of office. Well, it's not too late, but it's possible that he won't be convicted. But when the evidence comes out, and it will come out because the Democrats have enough power now to make sure that the evidence comes out and the witnesses are called and you have to listen. Now, the Republicans are going to make all kinds of excuses about why these witnesses are not good witnesses and why it's not true and why, that's how they are. But the difference now is that he's not president anymore, and the regular courts can indict him for crimes that he's committed. There are already several crimes that the courts in New York have been waiting to indict him for. That's why he was so desperate to stay president, because if he's president, the Republicans are protecting him, and they're saying you can't indict or convict a sitting president. And so we're like, okay, when he's out of office, we'll indict him. And he wanted to stay in office so he could stay protected, but now he's out. So other courts can put him on trial for many things. And there are many cases already waiting to be prosecuted against him, including a civil case where a woman said he raped her and he basically assaulted her character in public, they slandered her, and she's suing him for that. And they have evidence that they think will prove her case. And so he wanted to be president so that he could avoid all of these other criminal charges. And whether or not he's convicted in the Senate, and he should be, it's a shame that the lawmakers of our country are trying to say that we shouldn't punish people like him for not following the law. But I can guarantee you that if that had been Obama or any regular person who had done the things that he did, and especially if they were people of color, not Republicans, they would want to throw the book at them and press every law and every legal case that they could. But because it's him and because he's one of them, whatever that means, they're trying to make excuses for him. And they're also afraid that if they prosecute Trump, if they vote against Trump on the trial, that people in their states and in their districts and their cities will not vote for them in their next election. So there's that. I think it's pretty cowardly, but it's true. They want people who voted for Trump to also vote for them so they can stay in power. And so they don't want to make Trump mad. That's very short-sighted, in my opinion. It's pretty stupid, in my opinion, but that's how they think. How do I stay in power? I'll say anything, I'll do anything, I'll support anyone so I can stay in power. And so that's kind of what's happening. So if he is convicted, he can be kept from running for president again. But the man's 74. He's not healthy. He's not taking care of himself the best he could. That's really not something that I'm super worried about. It's more like the people who are following him. So I don't think I actually. I was thinking, Josephine's question about have I personally experienced racism? Kind of forgot about that question. Um, that's a complicated question. It's I'm gonna have to say yes, obviously, but everyone who's Black doesn't feel racism in exactly the same way as everyone else. So there's that. And sometimes it's it's like asking, do you notice the air? Because it's everywhere. It's everywhere and everything. And you have to think about, well, how are they going to treat me when I go to the police department because I'm Black, or when I go to a courtroom for to say that someone's bothering me? You know, how are they going to treat me when I, it's everywhere, and so you don't really notice it like that. I don't have people like what you see on Twitter all the time, or on Facebook, or on these different news clips, like getting in my face and calling me names, like that kind of thing. It's more the covert racism, where you're just not treated quite the same way, or people assume things about you because of your skin color. But I live in Los Angeles, so and I'm not saying that California doesn't have racism. It does. There's racism here in California, here in LA, absolutely. But in LA, it's just less in your face. In other places, people are more bold to just say racist things right to you, like in the South, in a South Carolina, for example, in a, I don't know, in a Oklahoma and a Texas. But in California, it's just less, it's less in your face. But there are just, like, I know there have been times where it's been like racism in your face. But we also have people who really, really want to be your friend, or they go out of their way to be nice to you so they can prove that they're not racist, which is kind of racist, but in a, in a less scary way. It's not where you're afraid for your life, but people are treating you a certain way so they can prove that they're not racist, because they really are. And or they say, oh, well, you're a nice one, you're the good kind, whatever that means. Like, they think that all Black people are stupid, or criminals, or whatever they think. But then they meet you and you're a normal person, so they say, well, you're special, the rest of them are still bad, but you're special. And that's racist too. So there's all kinds of ways racism is expressed. And yes, I have experienced it, not as badly as other people have. Obviously, no one shot me in the street, or thrown me in jail for something stupid that I didn't really do, or that was really not that serious. I haven't had those experiences, but yeah, it's everywhere. You can't escape it. So what I would say to that is, I personally just don't think about those people. I'm trying to focus on who I am and what I want to do and how I want to live. And I don't want to let anyone get in my way. And so it takes a lot of energy, though. It's like you have to be so like, I'm going to do this thing that I want to do. And I'm going to block out all those people who are trying to tell me who I am and how I am and what I can and cannot do, to block them out and just focus on getting done what I want to get done. And so that's how I approach it. But yeah, it's out there. It's out there everywhere. Yes. Okay, so that was Josephine's question. And then I hope that I finished Mira's question and Pavla's question. And what is next? So I have I think that, okay, so Josephine had another question, which was, what is my opinion on Trump or other politicians' choices? Is it true that the American dream is dying and America is changing? Okay, so very good question. I think that the first part of the question, Josephine, is answered. what's my opinion on Trump? It's not a very good one. It never was good. It was obvious to me from the beginning what kind of person he was, and it was not good. And so, but the fact that so many people thought it was okay just shows you what Americans are like given the opportunity. So we say here, is the American dream dying and is America changing? Well, what you see here when you look at the Capitol riots and you see the white nationalists, the white supremacists, all these people feeling bold because Trump's in office and he's going to support them and coming to the forefront. I wouldn't say that that's America changing. America's always been like that, but we like to pretend that we're all good and benevolent and freedom loving and, always trying to get better. And there's a part of America that is like that. You have to remember that America is 330 million people, maybe more at this point. America is a big country from coast to coast. It's like, 2,000, 3,000 miles to get from the West Coast to the East Coast. Then we have Alaska and Hawaii and some territories in the Caribbean and out in the Pacific Ocean. America is big, very big. So there's a lot going on. Whatever kind of good person you can think of, we have a lot of those. Think of a smart person, we have a lot of those. But every kind of bad person you can think of, we have a lot of those too. We have a lot of everything. And so what's happened with Trump in power is not America changing so much, but showing the parts that it usually keeps more secreted, if that makes sense. It's just exposed more. Now, as far as the American dream goes, the American dream's not dying because the American dream was never real in the first place. The American dream is a myth that people cling to. And insofar as it is a myth that was never the reality, it's still alive. People will still cling to that myth. People will still strive to model their lives according to that American dream myth. But you also have to think about it this way. There are 330 million Americans. What is the American dream for me is up to me. And what it is for other people is up to them. But we have this kind of generic American dream, what you're supposed to do with your life, or how your life is supposed to go, and how hard work is all you need to do and you can be successful. That stuff's not true. It never was true. I mean, people are successful largely because they came from successful families or they had some kind of benefit. If you would read a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about what is the true story of success. It's a very good book. I've read this book with my students many times, and it is some very deep truths about why people are really successful. And he's dealing with this myth about success, and then he's trying to bring it into like, what is the reality of success? So yeah, the American dream, I mean, however you conceive of it, and remember, everybody's going to have some kind of a different version of that probably, or take the generic version and then they're going to tweak it to fit themselves. It's not dying. I mean, a myth, how does a myth die? Can you kill Thor? You can't kill Thor because Thor is a myth. He's not real. You know what I mean? You can't kill Zeus. You can't kill Apollo because they are mythological creatures. They're mythological creations. So the myths can't be killed. People can just choose to kind of try to grasp for it or work towards it, or they can choose to ignore it. So no. And is it still possible to have a good life in America? Absolutely. It's still possible to have a good life in America. It is still possible to have happy times in America. I would be more happy when we can go outside again, when COVID is over and the pandemic is over, but I don't mind staying at home. As long as I stay healthy, I'm good. If I can be healthy, if I can work, if I can, you know, choose some things that I want to do with my time, I'm fine. So everything that is represented in the American dream is still possible, but the idea that all you have to do is work and you can do anything and everything's going to be possible. I would say read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers book, and that will give you a more accurate picture of what it means, or how a person builds success, or how success is achieved. The American myth makes it really simple, and it's just not true. But a good life in America, is America a good country? That's another question. What does it mean to be a good country? And if you would interested in that, there's this book, The Good Country Equation by Simon Anholt, where he talks about what it means to be a good country. He's done a lot of work with measuring, how do you measure a country's goodness, not greatness, not bragging about itself, not saying we're number one, not that kind of stuff, or how much money do we have, because that doesn't make you good. That doesn't measure a good country. But what does it mean to be a good country? If you look at Simon Anholt, I would recommend that book. It's The Good Country Equation: How We Can Repair the World in One Generation. Very interesting reading. So the American dream, if you choose to believe in dreams, it's still there. You can still have it. I don't believe in that, but I still believe you can make a good life for yourself, but you have to get more real. You gotta go beyond this simple thinking and mythological thinking, and you have to decide what is really important to you in your life, and what is the best way of centering in your life those things that are important to you, and then you can have a beautiful life. So I hope that answers your question, Josephine. And is America changing? I hope so. I hope that by uncovering all the ugly parts and not just focusing on the best parts of America, but uncovering all of it, which we have definitely done in the last 4 or 5 years, we can now set about changing the parts that are bad, improving what America is and what America means. And I think that Joe Biden's vision will do that. But a lot of people are going to fight against Joe Biden's vision. And it means that Americans, regular Americans, Americans in every level, have to step up and decide what they want America to be and what contribution they can make to that. And so it's really, when things are bad, or when things are, rocky or unstable, it's a good opportunity to really think about what you want your country to be like, your city, your community, your life, and then have a focus and a mission in your life to work towards that. So I hope America is changing. I hope America is changing. And I feel like there's enough reason to believe it's possible, but again, people will fight against it. And we have to be stronger than those people. People who want America to be a good country have to be stronger than the people who want America to go back to some mythological America that existed back in the day, and we return to that. That's just crazy. There are some people who think we should be going back to how we were in the 50s, and back then everything was great. Everything was not great. It's also a myth. That's when the American dream myth kind of hit its heyday. Was you can get a job, any job, you can work there forever, you can build a middle-class lifestyle, and you can raise a family, you can have this great American dream: a house, picket fence, a car, 2 kids, and a dog, right? Well, that was only true for certain people, and that was only true because there were certain things in place in society that would allow people to kind of follow that pattern. And those things that allow that are gone now. That we don't have strong unions. We don't have a growing middle class. We don't have wages that are going up where you have good paying jobs. That's just not the society that we have right now. So we have to give up that myth of going backwards, and we have to work towards how can we make America a good country, the way Simon Anholt talks about it. And then we can say America is changing and changing for the better. But there are people who are going to fight to not let it change because it's working for them. And we have to be stronger than those people. Okay, so I think I answered that question. Then a question from Tomas. Hi, Tomas. Your question was, how can Trump have so many supporters and voters when he seems to be a dictator? At least that's what it looks like over here in Europe. Well, here in California, it looks like he's a dictator too. So you're not wrong about that. And to answer your question, again, it's my opinion, and it's based on a lot of reading, but it's still an opinion. Some people, there are a certain amount of people in every society, not just in America, who like the idea of a dictator. They like authoritarianism. They think that that's the best. We should just force people to do X, Y, and Z. And we should just, you know, force the way we think is a good way on everyone. And so some people are attracted to that. Just people, they think strong is good. I don't know how they think he's strong. I don't see him as a strong person at all. I see him as a bully. And behind every bully is a sniveling little weakling who, if you press hard enough, they will fall apart. And so anyway, they think he's strong, or they think that he's going to elevate them. He makes them feel better about being a bad person, about being racist, about being ignorant, about being uneducated, about being mean and inconsiderate. And he says that those things are okay. And so they feel good about themselves because somebody is showing them that being a loudmouth, bully, belittling, do nothing, ignoramus who wants to just say, I deserve to be praised for who I am, even whether I do anything or not. And that makes them feel good. Other people just think, oh, if Trump is in power and he has his ways, I can make a lot of money off of that. That would be good for me. So they say, okay, I don't care about anything but money. So I will, if I can make money off of it, I'll support it. Other people, I mean, they see themselves in him, and more than just the way I already said, but you know, Trump is just not that smart. And he's saying that you don't have to be smart. You have to be like, he's not intelligent. If you can just, I don't even know how to answer this question, how to finish that sentence, but he lets them get away with things that other people have made them feel bad for. Have said that, you know, being racist, that's a bad thing. Being stupid is a bad thing. He feeds into a lot of people who give into conspiracy theories, and he makes them feel like they're right, and they love that because, you know, if everybody else says you're crazy, and then he says you're not crazy, you're right, and then they follow him for those reasons. I've seen a lot of things to say why people are on board. There's also the fact that, again, back to racism, some white people, not all of them, but some white people feel like they don't want to share America with people who are not white. And they try to make people who are not white, people who don't speak English, people who are poor, what have you, they feel like they're being outnumbered by people of color and immigrants, etc. And they want to take a stand, and even if it has to be a harsh stance, to get those people put back down so that they can be on top again, as they always have been in America. And they also feel like women are doing too much. It's like some of these people are, you know, fundamental religious people who want women to stay in their place, and that is like, just support a guy, just depend on a guy to do everything for you, and you just stay at home and have kids and stay in the kitchen, and that's what you should do. And some women agree with them. Obviously I do not, but some women agree with them, and they like this idea of keeping women down, keep minorities out, keep immigrants down, English only, you know, these kinds of things. And they have many reasons for, or they, you know, they're into money, or they just don't like a particular type of person, like Jews or Mexicans or Central Americans, and they like a person who is going to be mean and harsh, the people that they don't like. So there's lots of different reasons, and there's probably more that I can't even think of. But that's how, and they don't mind authoritarianism. They think it's fine as long as they get to be the ones who have the authority. They don't mind authoritarianism. But if someone else has the authority, then they will cry, you know, about their freedoms and about how they're being disrespected and their rights are taken away. But if they have the authority, they're okay with oppressing other people. Some people are just mean. Some people are just not nice people. And, you know, for me, I personally think that people are bad readers. If people were good readers, they could read the characters of other people, what they think, I mean, what they say and what they do, and they would know like how this kind of person turns out, or how this kind of where does this kind of situation go. They would also, if they were good readers and people read a lot, understand other people's perspectives, and they would not be so entrenched in only their own is right and everybody else is wrong. They would have a little bit more empathy and compassion for other people and understand more than one side of an issue. So there is that. And so, yeah, Tomas, you were not wrong in thinking he looks like a dictator, but he's out of power now. Enough people saw what was going on and didn't like it to get rid of him, but he's still going to be trying to start trouble and cause trouble. But I think that a lot of people are going to be suing him or indicting him for crime, so he may get busy with that sooner than later, hopefully, and then he can leave the rest of us alone. And I think that is all of the questions. It's kind of a long video, so hopefully you felt like your question was answered and you understand things a little bit more. Remember, it's just one person, but a person who reads, but it's one person's opinion. And if you have more questions, tell your teacher, let them know, and I will do a follow-up with you. So let's see. I guess I'll say ahoy again. Bye-bye.